Hi everyone, just been out for a really interesting day to my main dealer Hyundai, SLM Hyundai in Norwich, and had some really interesting conversations with the sales manager there. In fact, that's probably unfair, he's not sales manager, I think he's the general manager. Anyway, forgetting his title, I wanted to share with you what I learnt and what I felt. I've got so many numbers and thoughts buzzing around my head, it's hard to get them all clear and what it means and what the comparisons are between what I've seen and what I've tried. It's a bit of a very, very different day. The Kona Electric that I've got was in for a rattle. They couldn't find it on the first time that they sent it in, or they didn't actually fix it. This time they had another go at it for another hour while I was test driving an I30N Fastback Performance. And yeah, more about that in just a moment, but they still haven't been able to fix the rattle from the seatbelt area, and I'm pretty convinced what it is now. It's two flat pieces of plastic, and there's a resonance on them when you're driving, so depending on how it's fitted and how the resonance of those two bits of plastic together creates a vibration, sometimes not. But the fact that the other side of the car doesn't have the rattle and this side does, it should be easy for them to fix, even if they have to replace the plastic mounting or the unit there for the seatbelt. Not to worry about that, that's a really minor issue with the car, that it's going to get fixed. I'm not bothered about that. I was quite happy to go in because I wanted to test the I30N Fastback. And yeah, it's a petrol car. What on earth was I doing testing that? Well, every time I've taken my Kona in, they've had an I30 Fastback in the showroom, and every time I see it, I just wish the Ioniq was that shape. I mean, yes, they're similar. You know, they're not far apart, but there's just something about that I30 Fastback that's more sculptural, more beautiful. It's not as salesman-like as the Ioniq, which looks more like a reps car. It's just got more about it, and I do really, really like it. So I've always wanted to drive one and compare what it's like to the Kona. So it's not really that I'm thinking about changing to one of those, or am I? I wanted to learn from that experience so that my mind could get settled on how I felt about that car. So that's what I was really doing anyway. Yes, and it's the one that does all the pops and bangs, which is, well, yeah, to a boy racer, it's fun. To a kid, it's fun. It does feel like a bit of a toy, but it gives you that engagement with the car, and that's an important part of what I wanted to talk about today, because let me go right back to the start of some of the numbers that I've been considering today. So I've been looking at, if I changed my car and bought, let's say, a petrol Kona or a petrol I30 Fastback, not the performance model, I could get a really nice car, well specified, same sort of luxuries, same sort of comfort and size as this Kona, and I could get that for 19,000 to 21,000, let's say. Now compared to my Kona, which, you know, you're talking 30 to 40,000 pounds in that range for Kona Electrics. You're starting to get used to those numbers of 30 to 40,000, which is a fantastically huge number to me. I've only been used to buying cars, you know, 10,000, 12,000 pounds. The Kona was a massive increase on what I've spent before on cars. I think the most expensive car I've ever purchased was £18,000, and it was one of my TVRs that I had years ago. So where am I going with this? What I'm going is, when I see those brand new cars and how nice they are and how well specified they are and how cheap it seems, because I've now started to get used to 30 to 40,000 pounds for a Kona Electric, they seem really good value, and that's back to the argument again, isn't it? You hear all the detractors say, well, they're not worth twice as much money or so much more money than a petrol version. And yeah, that's what I just experienced. Looking at what I could get, they seem very good value. But then you think about how much they're going to depreciate on day one you walk out of the showroom, and then you think about the increased costs you're going to have for vehicle excise duty. I wouldn't say increased insurance costs, but we've got increased servicing costs and the fuel costs. You add all those things in together, and it's not a sensible purchase, because it's going to cost you more money. So yes, it costs less as an outlay, and it seems like very good value for what you're getting, but because it depreciates and has higher running costs, over a term of 3 or 4 years of owning it, it's actually not very good value compared to an electric car. So I've had that sort of realization. I knew this already. In fact, I knew all of these things I'm going to share with you, but it's just that they've been rammed home now, and they've really come into focus by looking at practical, real examples. So yeah, I had that feeling of, wow, what a bargain this is, but then was able to sit down and think, well, actually, yeah, it seems cheap to start with, but it's not really. So anyway, the thing that I noticed was, when I was considering, say, a premium SE Kona 1 litre petrol, or the equivalent i30 Fastback, it was a nice car. It's just a car, and it does the job. It's nothing that stirs the juices. It's nothing that gets you going, nothing that makes you feel you've got something special, which you do with the Kona Electric, that's for certain. But driving the N Performance, especially the top of the range one with 275 horsepower, it gives you that, and I can understand why boy racers and people that just like that experience want it, because for £25,000 to £29,000 in that region, you can get one of these i30Ns, and depending on whether you get the, say, lower end specification or the top end specification with the highest performance and all the gadgets, then you know, it's up to £29,000, and I think, you know, there are deals to be done on them as well. So for the high 20,000s, you get a car that pops and bangs, has really high performance, racing-like brakes, really sharp handling. The sensation of driving the car is quite addictive. And I'll compare that to the Kona, not on like-for-like performance, because this i30N Fastback going around corners is unbelievable, and the speed is unbelievable. It's you're going along at in excess of the speed limit, and it feels like 50 miles an hour. The car works so well, it hides the speed that you're doing, and it gets to that speed so quickly. It's really addictive. Now the Kona Electric is very similar, because it's so quiet and so smooth and so linear. You can get to very high speeds very quickly, but it does it in a completely different way. The instantaneous power is really great, and not having to change gear and accelerate is really great as well. It has that something extra that makes it special, the Kona Electric, and so does these i30Ns, the Fastback especially for me, because it looks more beautiful than the 5-door i30N. So it is interesting to have driven that and to have thought about how, I wouldn't say bland, but how more ordinary an ordinary petrol Kona or i30 Fastback is, but then to have tried the performance one, which has that something special about it. Now, whether you like pops and bangs in the exhaust and sport modes and customizable suspension and steering geometry, and you know, whether you like all those sort of sporty features or not, you know, launch control, that's entirely up to you. But I can see the comparison on having a car that feels special to you, and this Kona Electric that I'm driving feels special, and I think it's what I was looking for. When I originally went to look for an electric car, I couldn't find something that felt more than just an electric car. It didn't feel special enough, and I think some people that drive the i3, for example, with its high performance, they get that special feeling from the trim and the interior, the ambience and the performance. They get that feeling, and I must certainly get it in this Kona Electric. And searching for that, and how much money is that worth to me, is quite important. So back to my car. I intimated that my car is going to be coming up for sale. I am going to advertise it for sale. I haven't aggressively yet. I haven't put it on Auto Trader. I haven't put a price on it, but I've alerted, I don't know, social media, shall we say, that my car is going to be for sale. Now, what price is it worth? So this isn't what my opinion is. I've gone to the dealer and asked them about the price, and what they would do is trade in for various cars. And what I've discovered is that the trade price for this car that I'm driving, a 64 kilowatt hour premium SE with metallic paint, 10,000 miles on the clock, trade price is $33,500, which is slightly more than what I paid for the car. So that's fine, but that's trade price. Retail price that they would put it up for would be £37,100, and this is from their book systems. So Retail for me, selling it privately, probably is somewhere between the two, between the 33.5 and £37,000. So that's what I've learned about the value of my car. Now when I compare that to, let's say, the petrol Kona or the petrol I30 Fastback for £21,000, I could get a cheque back for £14,000 if I traded in, and I would have a very nice car, but it wouldn't feel special and it would depreciate more than this car. So why would I want to do it? Why would I want to change for a petrol Kona or a petrol I30 Fastback? Because I'm taking away the something special. I'm taking away, forgetting all the environmental things and about loving electric cars as I do. I'm just thinking practically and logically, there's something missing. Now, the 10, 12, 14,000 pounds that you gain in your bank account, is that worth that something special? And basically, if you've got that money spare, it's how much of that can you put back to get something that is really special? Well, that N performance model that I tested, which has something special, the price difference would be about £6,000. So I could do a straight swap for a brand new one of those and have £6,000 in the bank. Yes, it would cost me over £500 a year in vehicle excise duty for that car. Yes, I would be getting, I reckon, 30 to the gallon, 30 miles per gallon from that car, because it's quite addictive to drive quite quickly in the lower gears and accelerate. Yeah, and even the pops and bangs, they are fun. So the cost of owning it and the cost of depreciation means that that 6,000 that I've gained back would soon disappear again. So yes, I've got something special, but it's not the same special, and that's special on performance and handling, which does satisfy a need for me of engaging with a car while I drive it, is great. Susan, on the other hand, would absolutely hate that car, because all the things that are special about it, she wouldn't like it whatsoever. So as a car for the two of us, the N performance models just wouldn't work as a family car. The boot's plenty big enough. Cracker could sit in there absolutely fine. I don't think he'd like it as much as the Kona, because he wouldn't sit as high. The boot has got quite a lip that goes down into the Fastback i30. So then I look at other things. I look at, say, a brand new Kona. If I look at brand new Konas, I could swap this Kona for that price that I've been quoted as a trade price, and I could buy a brand new Kona Electric 64 Premium. So I could go down a level in specification and have a brand new car and have the 10,000 miles wiped off, etc. And you think, well, is that something I'd want to do, and take advantage of selling my Kona and making a tiny profit and then buying a lesser Kona than what I've got, but just a brand new one? Is that something that's worth doing? And you think, well, do you know, this car still feels brand new. My Kona Electric here, although it's a year old and 10,000 miles on the clock, it is like brand new. I've looked after it, there isn't a mark on it. I'd rather have this than a brand new premium. So there's no point in me doing that either. So I'm just thinking through all these different scenarios. Now the Kona 39 kilowatt hour, which previously I'd have said, no, don't touch it with the barge pole because it charges slower, and for the price difference I'm getting the 64. This is what I said in one of my original videos when I was considering the Kona. You might as well just get the 64. It's really not worth getting the 39. I think at the time it was £3,500 cheaper to get the 39 kilowatt hour. So I've worked out to get a 39 kilowatt hour Kona in premium, because they don't do premium SE specification, that would be about £29,000. So if I got 33.5 for this, that's 4,500 spare, and I'd have the same car, the same fun, because as you'll have seen from my video comparing the 39 to the 64, it's actually a little bit more fun to drive. So I'd still have a great sized car, a great fun car to drive, but I wouldn't have the leather seats, I wouldn't have that same comfort and the heated ventilated seats, and I wouldn't have the LED lights, and what else wouldn't I have? I'm not sure about the heated steering wheel, I can't remember whether that's on the premium or not. But there's a few bits and pieces. I wouldn't miss the heads-up display, that's for certain. So actually, considering the 39 kilowatt hour, I'd still get the great fun Kona, and I'd still have the great fun electric car and all that that brings. I'd just have a lower range. But that doesn't sort of make sense, does it? Because it sort of seems like I'm justifying a 39 kilowatt hour Kona would make more sense to me But originally when I looked at it, it makes no sense because the couple of extra £1,000 makes the 64 even more worth it. So it sort of goes round and round in circles, and it's when we get to the Ioniq prices that I find it gets really interesting. So the Ioniq, I glimpsed the prices at the dealership of the new UK Ioniq Electric pricing. So yes, I've seen the hybrid pricing as well, but I'm really not interested in talking about the hybrid, so I'm not going to talk about those. Although the Kona hybrid prices, I'll just mention it in a moment. But the Ioniq Premium, so they're just doing the same two specifications, Premium and Premium SE. The Ioniq new model, which is a 38 kilowatt hour, 38.2.3, something like that, kilowatt hour battery. The only differences really are the it's got all the Kona wiring and systems and more of the technology that came from the Kona. So the Ioniq's had an upgrade really in its software and its drivetrain and the motor performance. The media screen is now 10-inch, which is better. There's quite a few upgrades from the old Ioniq to the new one. The only downside to it is because it's a lower voltage system, it doesn't actually charge as fast. So whereas the Ioniq 28 kilowatt hour would charge at a faster miles per kilowatt hour charge, the new one with the larger battery will actually be slower in adding miles to your car, which is a great shame, but that's because they've used the lower voltage system from the Kona 39. Anyway, the premium specification is a price of $32,995. Let's call it 33,000. I honestly don't want to say that that's the exact price because I can't remember. I only glimpsed it. It's approximately £33,000. So knock off the grant of 3.5. That's £29,500 to buy, which is the same sort of list price as the I30N Fastback Performance Plus Super Duper Pops and Bangs car. Great. But the Premium SE comes in at just under 35,000 UK pounds. After the UK grant, that's 31.5. So that's £2,000 for the upgrade to the Premium SE, which is again leather, heated, ventilated seats. That's the same really as the Kona. You add £2,000 for that extra few pieces of specification to the car to get it to that nice leather, luxurious interior. So it depends what you want as to where that fits. But if I traded my Kona Electric for one of those, what would that mean? So I could get the top of the range Premium SE, which would feel just like this Kona Electric I'm driving, but obviously lower, and the lower charging and the lower range because it's only 186 miles WLTP. So it might do 200, 220 tops in the summer with really economical driving. That's the sort of level range we're talking, and I could get one of those and £1,500 back. Well, £1,500 for the loss of all that extra range and extra performance that this Kona Electric has, I don't think's worth it. It's too much. £35,000 list price for that Ioniq with only a 38 kilowatt hour battery, I think is a little bit too much. The premium specification at £29,500 is, after the UK grant, is really interesting because that's exactly the same price as the Peugeot E208. So you can have a Peugeot E208 small city car size thing with a 50 kilowatt hour battery with a 200 plus mile range for £29,500 after the grant, or you could have an Ioniq Premium with probably I'd say it's similar kit, similar technology. It's only the Premium SE with the extra leather that probably takes the Ioniq above the E208 in specification. But the Ioniq's a bigger car, so comparing the E208 to the Ioniq, I think the Ioniq's better value. The only thing you're losing is probably 20 miles of range difference between the two. The Ioniq is much more efficient still, but 20 miles of range, and it's the same price between the Premium Ioniq and the E208. So interesting where these manufacturers are pitching their prices. And the Kona Premium 39, again at £29,000, is exactly the same. So you're starting to have lots of electric cars at a very similar price, around this £29,000 after the grant. Top spec Peugeot E208, No doubt a top-spec Corsa will be in similar territory. No doubt a top-spec Renault Zoe will be in similar territory. And you've got the Kona 39, and which, you know, it's got 100 and... what was the range of that? Off the top of my head, yeah, please correct me in the comments. 176 miles, WLTP, 10 miles less than the Ioniq officially. So there's quite a lot around that £29,000 level. And I'm going round and around here, aren't I? And where am I getting to? Well, what I'm getting to is it's very hard to find something that makes sense to swap this Kona Electric for, because this Kona Electric adds that something special. It does have that something special. It's not just a car. It's not just an electric car. It's got that extra luxury and extra performance that makes it feel really good. So it is really hard considering what to change this for. But then, yeah, here's the wake-up call again. And there's been a lot of talk online, and I've done some videos about it. The MG ZS EV. Well, at £23,500 for a 44 kilowatt-hour battery, it's basically the same sort of range as a Nissan Leaf, which has 38 kilowatt hours usable. So yes, it's got more kilowatt hours in the battery, but it's less efficient, so it can do the same range. So forget the size of the battery, it goes about as far as a Nissan Leaf 40 kilowatt hour. 160, what was that, 166 WLTP range, if that's correct. It definitely seems less efficient, but that price of 23.5, where everything else with top spec is coming out at 29, that's a big difference. So if I swapped my Kona, a year old of 10,000 miles, trade price 33,500, and bought the MG for £23,500, that's £10,000 in my pocket. Now we're talking something that's absolutely significant, because the only time I've been talking 10,000 plus money in my pocket for swapping the car is when we're talking about a petrol car that would depreciate a lot. And yet here we are talking about the MG as an electric car that is lighting people's thoughts up, and quite a few YouTubers are thinking about either ordering one of these or have ordered one of these because they're very good value. They know they're very good value. So you can't buy another electric car brand new of that size and that specification for anywhere near that price of 23.5. I think EV Opinion said in one of his recent videos you can only compare it to a Nissan Leaf second-hand car, specification wise and range wise and all those sort of things. So to have a brand new one versus a second-hand one, and the MG has thermal battery management whereas the Nissan doesn't, and I see that as it will only ever continue to hurt the resale value of Nissan Leaf cars as their batteries deteriorate, and there's worry about Rapidgate. I still can't believe that Rapidgate's going on and Nissan haven't dealt with that. But anyway, £23,500 is £6,000 to £8,000 cheaper than the other electrics we're talking about. So I'm just trying to look down at my notes here. It's £5,500 cheaper than a Kona 39 Premium. It's £6,000 to £8,000 cheaper than the Ioniq in Premium and Premium SE specification. So that just shows the value of the MG, because it's a well-built car. It's a really comfortable, spacious, luxurious feeling, good-sized family car. The only thing that it doesn't do is it doesn't excite you. When I drove it, I think when I drove the E-Niro, I tried to describe to you that it just didn't have that sporty edge. It didn't have that connected feel to the car. It didn't have that something special. Where the MG is a step down again from the E-Niro. It's still as soft, and it wallows a little on the corners, and because the efficiency is not so good, it just doesn't have that extra. But it's 10 grand. £10,000 less than this car I'm sitting in right now for a brand new one. And it does have some nice extra features. It has the MG Pilot, which I'm not quite sure yet how autonomous that is, and I'm quite excited to see the intelligent speed limit system and whether that really is adaptive, so it will adjust the speed for you in smart cruise control. I can't wait to see if that's true or not. And then you've got this huge panoramic sunroof that the MG has. It has some nice features. Now, for me, I don't really care whether there's 6 inches more space in the 2 back seats and whether Krakow would get extra space in the boot. That doesn't bother me. I'm past having pushchairs and buggies put in the back, and past worrying about whether children are more comfortable in the back than I am in the front. So the space doesn't really bother me whatsoever. But I think in this analysis, the different variations that I've looked at, from petrol Konas and i30s through to the performance, then to the electrics, and then when you get to the MG, it stands out. And it stands out because it's so cheap. You can see the E208 and the Kona 39 and the Ioniq, they're all priced in that range, which I predicted when I put out that video a week or two ago, whenever it was, about EV prices. Are they going up or are they going down? It does seem to be that 30,000 bracket is where people are aiming a lot of cars, and then you've got, you know, the 30 to 40,000 pounds where they're pushing up to the 40,000 pounds for the long range cars. The E-Nero, when it comes out in the next edition, will be as close to 40,000 pounds as it can get, and the Kona is already there at 38,500 pounds to get them new. So for the MG to come in at 23.5, my thought is, if anyone wants to buy that car, what's the worst case scenario if you don't like it and you want to sell it? You lose 10%, because, you know, if you could resell that car for £20,000, someone will want to save a few £1,000s to have a used one. But you can't buy another electric car with decent 150-mile range plus for anything like that. You can't buy a 67 reg Ioniq hardly for £20,000. You could get a Nissan Leaf 40 kilowatt hour, but, you know, they're a lower price for a good reason. They are depreciating more than other EVs, I think, and they're not as desirable. So I think the MG is going to do really well for a brand that people hadn't really thought about being a solid, reliable car. I think this EV version of the ZS is going to transform MG's image in the marketplace, because they're going to start selling more cars and people are going to be saying good things about them, and that will only spread for their image. And maybe that's what this is all about. Maybe they've got an opportunity here to raise their image of the MG brand by undercutting the other electric cars out there, because they will sell. And in the electric car market, there isn't much brand snobbiness. You know, people are swapping from Audis, BMWs and Mercedes, and they're swapping to Kia. And yet, to me, Kia would sound like a lower brand. But because it's the electric car, because it's the E-Nero and the E-Soul, and it's very, very capable with the excellent Hyundai drivetrain, they're really well thought of. So brands are getting improved through doing electrification really, really well. Right, I'll finish off just quickly with a few notes on the Kona hybrid that's coming out. It's the 1.6 petrol engine that they're mating with a small battery and producing a one of these hybrids that you don't have to plug in. And I'm not going to mention those other two words because it's like swear words, isn't it? I don't want to promote Toyota. Hang on, I just said it, didn't I? Sorry. Don't buy one of those things. Anyway, the thing that struck home with me was the price, and let's just say it was in the region of £25,000 to £27,000 for a decent specification of this hybrid. Well, why would you want to buy a hybrid Kona for £27,000 when you, for £21,000, you can have the 1 litre petrol, which is a brilliant little car that does 50-55 miles to the gallon, and it's the same car with all the same electronics and those sort of things. Why would you want the hybrid? Because hybrids often don't work as well. They don't feel as engaged. They feel a bit sloppy with the engine revving, and I don't know, most hybrids I've tested just are too average. They're not good at anything. They're not really good at electrification and electric transport because they're in a low power output when it's just on the electric side, and when it's mated together and the engine's in, that engine's just not doing as well as a decent engine would do in the first place. And we're only talking the difference between 50-55 miles per gallon of just petrol to what, 60 to 70 miles per gallon for a hybrid. So for 10-15 miles per gallon improvement for the same car is £7,000 worth it? And the answer is no. So I get the idea that some people want to think about hybrids because it's a transition and getting the emissions down is what's important to the manufacturers. But it just doesn't make sense. It's too much money for a hybrid, because it's not a good petrol engine car and it's not a good battery electric car. So it's not good at either of them. So I don't know why you'd want it. If it was a plug-in, you know, at least then most of your miles could be on electric, but then it'd be on a low power motor and you wouldn't have that dynamic feel. It would just be the economy. It's missing out on so much. So hybrids just don't make sense to me. And when I saw the prices today for the Kona hybrid, that was rammed home to me that they're too highly priced. So for the little bit extra, you might as well just get full electric and get all the benefits of full electric, the performance and the economy and the fuel and the environment, everything. And they're way overpriced from the petrol versions. So they just don't make sense to me. So if you're thinking about a Kona hybrid, think again. Think about saving money and just going for the petrol version. I would say diesel, but you know, that's another swear word, isn't it? But or think of spending just that bit more and getting an electric one, and it won't depreciate as much. It'll save you more money in the long run. They just make sense. So where shall I finish? I'll finish this video because yeah, it's a really long one, isn't it? Sorry about that. My thought process is all about wanting to consider changing this car. Now, why am I thinking about changing it? It is because of the price. It is because it feels like I have an opportunity to sell it this year for a higher price than I might, let's say, next year, and I can use that money as a stepping stone to another car, which I can then step from that into the car that I really want, which might be a Tesla Model 3, or it might be the new Skoda or Volkswagen E-Thing, the SUV sporty hatchback type car, Model Y, that sort of level specification car, maybe even a Polestar too. I do like the look of those. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about, is it a time to take the opportunity to have a stepping stone? And when I look at all the options that I analysed today, the one that stands out as very good sense for buying is the MG, because the compromise is, it isn't such a great car that excites me, but for £10,000 saving, that's a great compromise. So there you go, there's my thoughts for the day on all those different prices, all those different cars, and I don't know how hot off the press those Ioniq prices are. I haven't actually seen them on Twitter yet. I haven't seen them announced. They must be. So I hope I haven't jumped the gun and let you know some figures that I saw that were a little bit secret. I'm sure they're out there in the public anyway for the new Ioniq, and it is a shame. I really wish they'd not have increased the price as much as they did. If they could have kept it the same, it would have been great and more people would want the Ioniq. But I guess that's the issue. I'm guessing they're not going to have them in great volume again. I don't see them selling tens of thousands of these cars at that price. They're pricing them for the premium of those people that really, really want them. And that's what's happening, is that prices are going up because there are people out there that want to buy them, and it's only when they come down in price that the masses will jump in, and that can only happen when they can manufacture them in tens of thousands. Anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for listening to my ramblings. I hope some of that made sense. It feels to me like I'm downloading my thoughts and clarifying them as I'm talking, so it's helping me. I hope it helps you with churning around all these different numbers and thoughts. And yeah, if you're into petrol cars, damn, that end performance was a damned good performance car. I really did enjoy the drive, and I didn't mind using the gears at all. But would I want to own one? I don't think I'd swap the excitement of this Kona for a performance petrol car. It's a different sort of excitement, a different sort of thrill from it, and I don't think it's as good. I think the electric excitement, the electric sensation is a better thing. So yeah, if they could bring out an end performance electric Kona or an electric fastback, damn, I'd want one of those. Absolutely. I'll save my money and wait for Hyundai to bring out an i30 fastback electric 50 kilowatt hour. Yes please. Make it now. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you again soon. Bye bye.